Next question here, the two main policy limits. Maybe define the MEC. What is MEC?
Yeah, so the MEC limit is really something that came out in the 80s from the IRS, that prior to the 80s or the 7702 rule, you'll hear that also, is that people could, there was no limit as far as the amount of funds you could put into a policy. The IRS put a cap on it, and it's really just a calculation based on the person's age, gender, and death benefit, and it's a ratio basically saying how much funds need, basically how much death benefit is needed for that policy amount, and it's a 7-year, and so they're saying over that 7 years, this is how much the maximum amount that one can put into a policy with this death benefit and still be called and be considered insurance policy. Versus prior to that law, someone could just put in $1 premium and then put a $20,000 of paid up additions or the cash value part of that and still be considered insurance. IRS put a limit on that. So that's the big IRS limit that we do not want to mess around with in that sense. And it is a 7-year look. So that's where it may be called a 7-pay look or a MEC limit. Those are all basically the same.
Yeah, so I'll explain it a little bit different. I don't know if this is the true story. All these politicians are making these laws to find ways not to pay taxes, and they created this life insurance. But then they start to stuff all their money away in these life insurance policies. But that's where they put constraints on this stuff and go like that.
And then the second limit, and this is company derived, it's the paid up additions limit. So you have the MEC limit, and then what you hear is the paid up additions limit. Two main companies we use, those limitations usually is one company is 10 times base. So if your base premium is say $10,000, you could put up to 10 times that in paid up additions, or P, which is basically a cash dump. So you could put in $10,000 of base premium, you could put in another $100,000 in PUAs, and that's the company limit. Another company we use a lot, it's the 1090. It's 10%. It's not really 10 times, so it's the 1090 split is the max. If you have $10,000 of a base premium, you can put in up to $90,000 in PUAs, so it's slightly less. But again, those are policy or insurance company limits, and then there is some flexibility, and that's what mentioned, or Nash mentioned earlier, that we're just testing that out, because essentially if you have a longer funded period that you're able to maybe put in a little bit more, and the companies have allowed that you to do. Granted, you're still locked into the target amount. So for Nash's example, 116,000 for 10 years, that's 1.116 mil total of funds he wants to put into the policy. If he puts in 150,000 year one, which is under the MEC limit, he's not going to be able to continually do that for all 10 years. The max sum would still be 1.116 mil. So in those later years, he'll be putting in less. Why he's doing that would be because you want to front load the policy, have the compounded dividends start earnings earlier, and it'll have a greater effect on down the road. So that's one of the benefits to it.